90-Day Fiance. Matt Branis questions the paternity of his daughter with Jasmine. The kid's not even mine. 90-Day Fiance fans, fasten your seatbelts as the drama on Happily Ever After just hit a new level. Matt Branis dropped a huge bombshell in a shocking twist at the recent Tell-All segment. He appears to have confronted Jasmine about whether the baby really belongs to him. What was supposed to be a fresh start in their relationship turned into the most unexpected moment. Things spiraled quickly when Branis doubted his daughter's paternity and asked the most horrible thing a father can ever ask. He confronted his baby mama about her loyalty, leaving her heartbroken and furious. The reality TV star didn't even think twice before making such a comment on Jasmine's character. Why did Matt ask such a thing? Is he really doubting Jasmine's character? 90-Day Fiance star Jasmine Pineda has been firm about not marrying Matt ever since the beginning. She calls him her spiritual husband and acknowledges every effort he made. The reality TV star is still legally tied to her ex, Gino. Viewers were sure Jasmine and Matt would marry in the future, but the latter shared some shocking reasons he proposed to his baby mama. Some of the cast members asked if he would marry Jasmine if they didn't have a child together. The star left viewers in disbelief with his response. Matt said, No, probably wouldn't. Not at this moment. He made it clear that he just wants to marry his baby mama because they have a child. The reality TV star felt he would spend some time checking if they are really compatible. 90-Day Fiance. Matt questions Jasmine about their daughter's paternity. Matt Branis and Jasmine Pineda are featuring their highs and lows on the ongoing Tell-All. Fans are waiting to know whether the pair will really become a couple after the segment. Recently, 90-Day Fiance dropped a new teaser of the upcoming segment. In it, Matt caught Jasmine sharing her real feelings with Gino. He heard his baby mama expressing his love for her ex-husband. Jasmine admitted she was obsessed with him and claimed she would never have loved someone like him. Later, Matt asked Jasmine on their way back home about their baby's paternity. He asked if Matilda was really his child. He stated, "Can you imagine how ***ing stupid I'm gonna look if the kid's not even mine?" Jasmine chose to stay silent to avoid more emotional drama. However, Matt couldn't stop crying, thinking that the baby wasn't his. Fans have no idea how the topic came up. A blogger at 90-Day Fiance _ Alexa shared the teaser on Instagram. But fans feel Matt was entirely wrong for doubting whether Maddie is really his baby. One fan said, "Haha, okay, that's gotta be scripted, 'cause Matt's blind if he doesn't think that baby is his." The fan can't believe he would doubt after having just his mini version. They feel Matilda is an exact copy of her dad, and no one can deny that. Others think the 90-Day Fiance was just being emotional and exaggerating things. But they feel Matt's question may directly impact his relationship with Jasmine. What do you think about this? Share with us below. Stay tuned to TV season and spoilers for more tea on Jasmine and Matt's ongoing drama. The rain had not simply fallen. It had decided to make Briarwood a place that remembered every drop for days after, pooling in gutters and swallowing the shallow footsteps of those who moved too fast. Detective Alex Renford stepped out of his sedan and felt the cold settle into the marrow of his bones. The street lamp above the alley threw a jaundiced light that made the slick cobbles seem like the inside of an old wound. Officer Marla Hale met him at the mouth of the alley, her collar turned up, hair damp and plastered to her forehead. Her face said what the call had already said. They had found Stevie Blake. Alex's chest constricted before his brain had time to file the words into sentences. Stevie had been trouble and salvation in equal measure. A petty thief with a conscience who slid between the criminal underbelly and Alex's precinct with the ease of someone who belonged to both worlds and neither. Alex had depended on Stevie's crooked honesty more than he would admit to colleagues or to himself. Now, here he stood looking down at him. Stevie's body lay curled against the brick like a man who had finally given up on posture. His jacket, once bright with an almost boyish defiance, was soaked through and sucked to his frame. His face was pale and slack, where sunlight had been absent for hours if not days. There was a bruise blooming rigid and dark across his temple, as if something blunt had decided to claim residence there. A strip of torn paper fluttered from his palm where his fingers curled around it like a secret. Alex crouched without thinking, muscle memory from 1,000 crime scenes. Look, don't touch unless necessary. But even muscle memory betrayed him. He rested his palm on the damp pavement and felt the cold. What do we have? He asked, though Officer Marla's expression said enough. Blunt force trauma, she answered, voice lined and low. The way she spoke when the word wouldn't fit into any nicer phrase. No wallet, no phone. ID says Stephen Blake, 29. Neighbors heard shouting last night. Fights, someone crying. Surveillance from the bakery across the street caught a broken taillight. License plate unreadable. We checked hospitals. No one admitted in the last 12 hours with head trauma. She tapped the torn paper with her pen. This was in his hand. It's an address in Easton, scribbled. Could be a clue, could be, she didn't finish. No need. Clues were rarely tidy. They were insinuations, little razor-edged things you had to gently pry free from the world. Alex took the torn slip, careful not to smudge whatever the rain had left. The ink bled faintly. Someone had written in a hurry. Easton Warehouse, Unit 12, 11:45 p.m. Alex's mind started to orbit. Easton was industrial, a place full of warehouses and men who never asked warm questions. Unit 12 was small, a place that could hide a person or a body depending on who you paid. The time was close to when the neighbors had said the noise started. Who found him? Alex asked, 2 kids walking their dog. One of them said they thought he was sleeping, and then Marla's voice broke. He was still breathing, detective, at first. Then he stopped. One of the kids tried to call 911, but the reception up the alley is garbage. By the time the call went through, there was nothing to do. Alex pictured the kids. Small, shaking hands lifted to small phones. The way the world folds in on itself for children who witness the adult world make no sense. He looked at Stevie's face and saw, in the line of his jaw, something familiar. It wasn't family resemblance. It was a ghost of a loyalty Alex felt guilty for betraying. He knew better than to anthropomorphize the dead, to imbue them with meaning beyond what the autopsy would tell, but he could not help it. Stevie had enemies, yes. He also had someone he'd been protecting. Someone he had whispered a name for once, in Alex's ear under the dim lights of a diner booth. Alex had promised to investigate, then shelved the promise under paperwork. Promises had the strange habit of rotting inside drawers. They bagged the body, respectful and efficient, an almost surgical ballet of gloved hands and plastic. Alex allowed himself one final look. There was dried mud on Stevie's shoes that wasn't from this neighborhood. It had a different texture, coarser, like the packing grounds around the Easton warehouses. Ale slipped the torn paper into an evidence envelope and pockets it under his raincoat. The scene was cluttered with the murmurs of onlookers and the smell of spilled coffee from a nearby vendor who had stayed open for reasons he wouldn't explain. The baker on the corner, a man who had known Stevie since he was a kid, had his face turned away, both hands covering his mouth. The city made a show of being indifferent until someone you'd met at a bus stop, someone who had once traded a stain on their sleeve for something like trust, was taken from it. Then it all felt close, painfully close. Back at the precinct, the evidence room smelled of disinfectant and printer ink. Alex unwrapped the envelope and spread the paper between his fingers. The handwriting was jagged with haste. He scanned the list of names he'd carried in his head for months. Local runners, a dockhand who had a taste for secrets, the man in the bar with the slick back hair who always ordered 2 drinks for no apparent reason. None of them were Easton fixtures. He dialed Jonas Mercer, a surveillance tech who lived more in camera angles than sunlight. Give me everything on Easton Warehouse Unit 12, Alex said. Last 48 hours. Footage, door logs, anything that opens and closes. Jonas answered before Alex could finish the sentence. On it. There's an efficiency to Jonas that made him unnerving. He found patterns in static. Alex sat at his desk and stared at the photo of Stevie that had come with his ID. A younger man, eyes bright and mischievous, not yet taught to contain the world's disappointments. He thought of the whisper Stevie had once given him. They're not afraid of me because I'd tell. They're afraid of me because I know where they hide the truth. Alex had filed that under useful someday, which was a bureaucratic coffin for useful things. He pushed himself from the chair and walked to the window, watching the rain smear the city into watercolor. He didn't know, not with any certainty, who would want Stevie dead. He did know, with an uncomfortable clarity, who would have reasons to silence him. Men who ran shipments, men who watched parcels disappear into basements, people who lost money if truths came out. The city was an anatomy of profit and secrecy. Stevie was a splinter in IT.by midnight. Jonas called with the first harvest. We've got movement in and out of Unit 12, 2 people. One's a skinny guy, hood up. The other, there was a pause. A woman, long coat, carries herself like she owns the air around her. They come in at 11:15, leave about midnight. I pulled a freeze from a camera at 11:42. Jonas's voice ascended. You're not going to like this, Alex. Alex's throat went dry. What is it? He demanded. There's another face. Short, cropped hair, the kind of jaw someone sharpens on anger. He walks in at 11:43, stays about 4 minutes. Then he leaves. The other 2 leave at 11:58. Plate on the car is blurred, but I ran it through a cleanup and it points to a rental registered to a company fronted by a shell corp linked to. Jonas hesitated. Meridian Freight. Meridian Freight was a paper trail that led to men who wore suits and barely acknowledged the world below their polished shoes. Alex made a single move, arranged a dozen things in his head like playing cards. Ring Meridian, get a warrant, see Unit 12. He felt the old familiar click of investigation start, part indignation, part hunger for resolution, part that self-preserving need to ensure you were not responsible for what you had ignored. He inhaled, and the scent of coffee from the precinct's tiny kitchen anchored him. He called internal affairs on a whim, a private admonishment to himself. Don't get sloppy, Alex. But his fingers trembled not for procedure and not for fear, but because the face that Jonas had described, the cropped hair man, matched a mugshot he had filed months earlier. A local fixer named Calvin Rourke, who had a habit of making problems look like accidents. North of the precinct, at the warehouse district, Unit 12 smelled of oil and mildew and the faint metallic tang of old promises. The door was heavy and had a padlock recently broken. Alex's team moved like a choreographed machine. Flashlights painted the interior in slow, searching strokes. Pallets lay stacked with crates labeled for export. Among them, hidden under tarpaulin, were boxes that had been opened and resealed, the tape not quite the same. In the far corner was a chair, overturned. On the concrete floor, between skid marks and a glint of something metallic, lay a small, silver locket. Alex picked it up with gloved hands. The locket had a tiny photograph inside, a girl with Stevie's eyes. A child. Alex felt a sudden, sharp grief that had nothing to do with procedure, a grief sharp as a knife because something human, a small and private thing, had been left behind in the machinery. Who owns this place? Alex asked one of his team. Registered to Meridian Freight. Same as the car, the officer answered. No one on site lives here, no residents. It's been used for storage, freight staging, odd jobs for weeks. You said a woman was seen here. Alex's voice was steady, but inside a slow panic began to build. Any idea who? We pulled license plate footage from a diner camera 2 blocks away. The car that came in had temporary plates. Driver looked like an older mechanic, but the officer looked apologetic. We couldn't get a clear face. Alex thought of the locket and the child. He thought of Stevie's sneer that masked a tenderness he rarely let show. He thought of how easily loyalty could be mistaken for weakness, and how men like Meridian turned that mistake into a ledger entry. He felt the weight, the smallness of the police procedures against the vastness of the networks that could swallow a man whole and call it business. He paged Dr. Clara Reyes, the forensic pathologist who had a way of making the dead speak in unmistakable terms. When she came, she moved through the scene with hands that flicked here and there, tidying grief into data. Her report, when it came, was a ledger of the body's betrayals. Blunt force to the temple consistent with a heavy fall or a strike, no defensive wounds on hands, no drugs in the toxicology beyond a trace of something Alex recognized as a sedative used by smugglers to sedate animals during transport. A sedative appeared in strange places around the city, and men who trafficked risked leaving traces. The autopsy would reveal time of death. Time of death would tell Alex where to look for witnesses and what faces he might chase until they yielded their stories. That night, Alex drove home under an unrelenting rain, the city a blurred smear of lights. He stopped at a bridge and looked down at the river, cutting the city in half, fat and slow and dark as a secret. He thought of Stevie's words about the truth being hidden in places people seldom looked. He thought of the locket and how such small objects allowed the dead to remain human in the minds of the living. He felt the tug of responsibility like a rope around his chest, and the harder it pulled, the clearer it became that this was not a random strike of violence, but a message. Someone had taken Stevie and made him an example. The example would be read by those who needed that kind of language and ignored by those who could afford to look away. Alex closed his eyes and promised himself a small thing. No more files shelved under someday. Whatever the cost, he would follow the thread from Unit 12 to wherever Meridian Freight led, through cropped hair and broken taillights and the men who paid to keep their hands clean. The rain pattered against the windshield like a patient drum. Ahead, Easton was waiting with its own patience, and somewhere around its warehouses, somebody was keeping a secret that smelled like money and fear. Alex turned the key in the ignition and drove into the wet, into the doubt, into Stevie's last whisper, which felt now less like information and more like an accusation. Alex drove through the narrow industrial roads of Easton with the locket in his pocket, feeling its weight like a second pulse. The rain had thinned, but the clouds still hung low, casting the streets in a bruised twilight that made every shadow feel like a lurking intention. He reached the back entrance of Meridian Freight's secondary yard, a place he knew existed only because Stevie once told him that the real business never happens in the buildings with logos. Alex parked 2 blocks away, grabbed his flashlight, and walked the remaining distance with the calculated steps of someone who wanted to be seen as just another late-night wanderer. When he reached the chain-link gate, he saw something that made his breath catch. Fresh mud, smeared by boot prints, trailing from the gate to an old delivery truck. He bent down, hovering his flashlight close. The mud's grain matched exactly the particles on Stevie's shoes. Stevie had been here, recently, probably alive. Alex moved to the truck. Its back door was slightly ajar, barely noticeable unless someone looked for irregularities. He pulled it open with a careful push, and the smell hit him first. Bleach, mixed with stale rubber and something metallic that reminded him of a dentist's tray. Inside lay a rolled tarp. Alex's heart kicked once hard. He unrolled it fast. Not a body, but blood. Pooled, smeared, washed, then reappeared in faint rusty shadows, like a ghost insisting on being remembered. And next to the stain lay a key card. White, unmarked, except for a thin gold strip. He held it under his flashlight. It had dried blood along its edge. Alex pocketed it, scanning the yard again. A sudden metallic clank froze him in place. He jerked his flashlight off and pressed against the truck. Footsteps. Slow. Confident. Someone who belonged here. A man's voice said, "You clean it?" Another voice answered, "Yeah, as much as we could." The guy made a mess before they knocked him. Alex's blood ran cold. They were talking about Stevie. He peeked through the truck's crack and saw 2 men. One tall, wiry, a cigarette hanging from his lip, the other heavier with a shaved head. The heavy one kicked a bucket and muttered, "Boss says no loose ends." "You sure they dumped him far enough?" The wiry one shrugged. "We weren't supposed to dump him yet. The woman showed up early. Messed the whole schedule." Alex's mind sparked. Woman. The same woman from the footage. The same woman who left the warehouse with the hooded man. He leaned a fraction forward to hear more. The wiry man spat. Unit 12 was supposed to be clean. Then Rourke showed up, nosy as hell. If he fucks this up, the boss'll. But a sudden ring from his phone cut him off. He answered quickly, his tone changing into rigid compliance. "Yeah. Yes, sir. We're almost done." No one saw us." His shoulders stiffened. "Yes, sir. I understand. I'll take care of the card." Alex's eyes shot to the truck. The card. The one he already took. If they realized it was missing, they would start searching. He slid silently out the opposite side of the truck and moved deeper into the shadows. The men approached the truck. "Let me get the tarp," the heavy one said. "Boss wants it burned." The wiry one climbed in, cursed, and shouted, "Where the hell is the key card?" "I put it right here." The heavy man snapped, "You lost it?" "You idiot." "No. No, I left it right. He stopped. Someone's here. Alex didn't wait. He sprinted behind the stacked cargo crates, lungs tight, boots splashing through shallow puddles. Behind him the men shouted, HUY. Who's there? Stop. Alex jumped the fence behind the yard, landing rough on his shoulder, pain flaring, but he didn't stop until he was 3 blocks away. He ducked behind a closed liquor store and caught his breath. His hands shook, not from fear, but from certainty. Stevie didn't just witness something. He didn't just cross the wrong men. He had found something worth killing for. And the woman, they called her, she wasn't just part of the operation, but central to it. Alex pulled the key card from his pocket. Whatever it opened, someone died for it. He decided he would check the precinct database for encrypted access points in Easton. He needed to know what the card unlocked. But before he could move, he noticed something else, someone watching him from across the street. A silhouette, motionless, a woman, coat long, hair tied back, her posture sharp as a blade. She didn't run. She didn't hide. She just watched. And then she smiled, a slow, deliberate smile, and disappeared into the next alley before he could even step toward her. Alex felt a chill slide through him like a wire pulled tight. She knew he was looking for her. Worse, she knew he had the card. His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Detective, you're in over your head. Leave Stevie Blake where we left him. Alex stared at the message until it dimmed. Then he typed back 2 words, not happening. The reply came instantly. Then prepare your grave next to his.